Well, good evening, everybody. I think we have critical mass. I really appreciate everybody being here, and we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a ton that we want to get to, including what probably amounts to 60 questions at least that we'll get through the best we can tonight. So for those I have not had the pleasure of meeting before, I'm Rafael Padilla. I'm the Chief of Police for Kent. I am very touched that you're here. What it means to us is that you are here because you care about our city, you care about what's going on, you want information on solutions to problems maybe. Maybe you have suggestions, solutions for us to take back, and that's what's great about all of this, is the opportunity to interface when we're not responding to an emergency somewhere, and neighbor to neighbor, staff to community, reach out and have this interaction. So thank you for being here. Some of the introductions and welcome. I want to go around and we'll start with some introductions of our dignitaries in the room. I'll start with the mayor. Mayor Dana Ralph is in the back here. The tall guy in the suit there is our city administrative officer, Pat Fitzpatrick. And I hope I don't miss anybody, so point them out if I miss them. We have council member Zandria Michaud. Council member Brenda Fincher. And I don't see any other elected officials at this point, but if they come in, we'll call them out, so thank you. I also want to take a moment to introduce my team. For those of you who are sitting here going, my gosh, no wonder they're not answering calls. They're all at this meeting. That's not true. Okay. Everyone here tonight either represents my command staff or are part of the programs or units that deal with community-based problem solving. So they're not tied to 911 calls. We've got a full team out there tonight. They're doing their job. But I'm going to have them self-introduce, and I'll just pass the mic here. They'll tell you who they are and what they cover in terms of work.
My name's Jared Kasner. I'm the Assistant Chief over the Patrol Division. I have all the blue suits and work in that group.
I'm Officer Ian Lentz. I am currently assigned to the Special Operations Unit Division, and we deal a lot with homeless issues in the city, and work for my commander here, and Sergeant Kelsa, who is hunting today, I believe. Yeah.
My name is Andy Grove, and I'm the Assistant Chief over Support Services Division, and we cover things like recruiting and hiring, training, accreditation, and other projects. I've been with the city for 20 years.
Hi, I'm Mike O'Reilly. I'm the Community Services Unit Commander, and as Ian eloquently spoke, we have the Special Operations Unit, which also is your bike team and boat unit up on Lake Meridian. They also address hotspot policing around the city when staffed fully. We also have the neighborhood response team, and that's.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joel Makings. I'm the sergeant of the neighborhood response team, and I work with Commander O'Reilly.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Stansfield. I'm the deputy chief. Run operations, kind of keep all the divisions going in the same direction as much as I can.
Hello, I'm Eric Hemmen. I'm the Assistant Chief of Investigations, so all the detectives work for me.
I'm Stacy Judd. I'm a Community Education Coordinator for the Police Department.
Alrighty, thanks everybody. And special shout out, you saw Stacy there. She is one half of our Community Education Unit. The other half is Sarah Wood. Many of you have correspondence with them over time. Big thanks to them. They coordinated tonight's event, so thank you to them. And then, yes, applause would be awesome. And then last but certainly not least, the techno guys in the back with the cameras and the video recording and the ones that hopefully got the light right so I'm not shining too much on my forehead, is our multimedia team, and they're here to support this event and record it so that we can post it so other community members can watch it at a later time. So how about applause for them? And big shout out, I don't know who is here from the church, but Zion Church, we want to say thank you very much for hosting us tonight, being great community partners in this event tonight. Okay, that gets the introductions out of the way. Let's talk about some ground rules. First, I am obligated to make sure everyone here is aware that we're video and audio recording tonight's event. So there's that. Number two, we've got presentations. We've done this a time or two, and we've got some presentations we think will hit home in terms of the information that's pertinent to probably a lot of the questions that are sitting there on those notepads. So our goal is to punch the information out and reserve as much time as we can for the question and answer, because that's the goal. That's what we're looking for in this meeting. Okay, that's what I want to get to. In order to do that with this many people, we just got to be efficient. So to that, the next rule is you have your note cards, and it doesn't mean you're limited to one. If somebody just picked up 3, so you can have more than 3 if you want. But we have to, so we can make sure that all the voices get an opportunity. We have to format it in a way so that we can get to them. My team will announce when to pass them over. When we do that, my team's going to go. They're going to batch them by category, and we're just going to start punching through them. Okay. My commitment to you is, if you stump us, probably won't happen, but if you stump us, we will circle back with the answer, and you'll get it in writing. Okay. Part number 2, my team's going to be looking for to-do lists. So if there are to-dos that come out of this, we will chronicle that, and we will also come back and say, here's what we did on the to-do list. Okay. At the end, I do have an ask. Mayor Ralph and I have an ask. You'll hear that. So I want to put that out there so you're not surprised. But let's get through the presentation today, and then we'll take it from there. Commander O'Reilly, did I miss anything on the rules of engagement? Did I get all those? Restrooms. Right outside the door here. And to that point, feel free to get up, do what you need at any time during this presentation. Nobody here will be offended. All right, so there's that. Okay, I think we got the preliminaries out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into the presentation. So tonight, you're going to see 2 abbreviated presentations. The first one is going to be on the crime stat update for the city. I think that's relevant because it sets the playing field for what we're dealing with. Okay, what your resources are going to, what challenges that are in front of us in terms of a broader picture of crime in our city, not only in our city, but you'll get a compare and contrast to what's going across the state. I have numbers for the nation, but we'll stick to the state and city of Kent for tonight, okay? So we want to set a level set regarding the crime data information. And then the second part is going to be on the staffing and resources that go with that, okay? And that's an important part to it. We know major themes in there that will come to your questions are the issues on the violent crime. We know that major issues regarding homelessness and other topics are on front of your mind. And so we want to talk to that as well, okay? But the presentations are to set the playing field so you know what we're dealing with, and we'll take it from there, all right? So I don't know why I got to start with the bad news, but I do. So, because most of this is not great. There it is. So these numbers, just to give you reference, every year the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police are charged by the state to provide the state crime reports for all the agencies that report out in the state of Washington. So these numbers are based on that. I have to put a disclaimer out there. They're different from the federal numbers a little bit because the feds categorize the numbers a little bit differently. So for those of you that are aware of the NIBIN numbers, DOJ numbers, they categorize things slightly different than Washington, but the data is very similar. In most cases, it's exact. So these are 2022 numbers because the data is a year behind. We'll get 23's numbers sometime in the spring of next year. For those of you that really want to do your homework, the website is there for WASPIC, okay? And so here's what we got. Overall in Washington, crime was up 8.5% from the year before. Do you know what that represents in terms of a watermark in our history? The watermark is about as high as it's ever been in the history of our state, okay? Because 21 was a record year in many categories, and 22 exceeded that by almost 10%, okay? Robberies, question in the back, up 18% specifically. Violent crime was up almost 10% there. Here's the real thing. Murders, all-time high of 394, all time, since we've been tracking numbers in our state, okay? Kent falls into that. We'll talk about Kent numbers here shortly. Aggravated assaults are up, increased 12%. These aggravated assaults are assaults that involve typically use of a weapon and the infliction of substantial injuries. Okay, and so up significantly, this statewide. Vehicle theft was up 47,000 plus. Okay, 31% increase. If you track the numbers the way I do, we have more stolen cars than anyone else in the nation. Okay, we don't have total numbers that are more. There are 3 states that beat us in total numbers: New York, California, and Texas. Thank you. You may have heard this before. What's different with those states from ours? Yeah, most of those states are 8 times the size we are. So we are in a very bad way when it comes to auto thefts and all of these crimes, okay? But the one that you pay me to pay the most attention to is this number right here, okay? That's the one that is most concerning. All of these concern me, but that one is way off the charts. So let's look at the trend. So if you go back, our numbers start here in 1980. We've had some rough patches, 1993, not such a great year. 95, we kind of trend down. We stay down for a while, okay? I always like to say right about here is when I became a Kent cop, and look what happened. See that right there? But in all serious, we're floating along, and we get to 2019, 20, and look at the trend. Can we all think about the major once-in-a-lifetime events that occurred not only in our state, but in our country and in our world in this time frame? COVID's one thing. Somebody really smart someday is going to do a study and tell us all we didn't realize happened because of COVID. I'm sure that's the thing. We had a lot of police reform, right? We're talking George Floyd here, okay? A lot of police reform, and we're talking a lot of change in our laws. I've been doing the job 32 years, and it's the first time where the shift has been legislators have gotten into the operational level of what law enforcement officers do, okay? And that's where the shift is. Very, very specific on how we do, what we can't do. And let me be clear, we needed to fix our stuff, okay? Law enforcement had stuff we needed to fix, and we embraced that. We jumped on that. And I will tell you, we moved mountain and earth to do the things that we needed to do to represent and police and serve our community in the way we should have been all along. I think our baseline was really good, but there was stuff we needed to fix, and we did. What we had challenges with the last 2 legislation sessions is that there were things that got fixed that had unintended consequences. My frustration is unintended consequences were predictable because we called them out. There isn't a mayor in this state that spends more time in Olympia fighting for Kent than Mayor Ralph, okay? I know that. I may have been down there a time or two, too. So that's what's going on. And so we like to talk about, give me the data, let's talk about data-informed decisions. I don't know how you explain this other than look at what's changed in the world, okay? The other big shift, and we're going to talk about this in the next presentation, is do we all remember what happened to our numbers of law enforcement officers during the same time? Yeah. Kent alone lost nearly 32% of its uniformed staff in 1 year. That's 10 years worth of attrition in one. Okay? So painting the picture. So what happened with Kent in 22? Well, very similar trend, right? Other than so when we lost nearly 32% of our staff, patrol staff, I had to make some tough decisions. You pay me to make sure that we are covering the priorities the best we can with the resources I have. I put everything I had in patrol and in investigations. Bye-bye bike team, bye-bye problem-solving team, bye-bye community-based patrols, bye-bye proactive police units. Bye-bye vice units, human trafficking, drugs, gangs. Gone. Gone for almost 3 years. We are slowly rebuilding them now. Okay? Remember that line? Perfect storm of things in my career I never thought I'd see singularly, but to see them all together at one time, pretty incredible stuff. Okay? Sex assaults were down. I think there's some underreporting from COVID, some residual of that. Same with our DVs, by the way. I think there was massive underreporting because of access to mandatory reporters in our schools, access to other community members, networks, things like our churches where people get support and help. Okay? I think there was a lot of that. And we were right in there with the thefts that went up across the state. Really blurry, but here's what we look like today. And this is as September. These numbers, I have an updated slide, but relatively same to this. It just came in on Tuesday. First question we're going to deal with is talking about the carjackings. There's your number. Okay. Vehicle prowls are down. If you're wondering what a vehicle prowl is, it's when they break into your car but don't steal it. I don't have any idea why they're down. Other than kind of the hypothesis is that, well, if you're going to break into it, you might as well steal it. And if you own a Kia and a Hyundai, that takes about 10 seconds to do. So we do a good job of recovering. Look at the numbers we're talking about here. 1,600 cars disappeared in our state so far. We found 1,200. Okay? That's what the recoveries are. Residential burglaries are down. That's a good thing. Commercial burglaries are down. That's a good thing. I think the message got out to our businesses and to our residents, and this is really hard for me to accept. People are starting to realize they have to defend themselves a little bit more than they used to. Okay? I don't like to say that as your chief, but it's the truth. Okay? And then shootings. We were down this year, which was good because in 21 we were really high. All right. Murder specifically, that number is now one higher. We had an additional murder since I put together this presentation. 2 of the deaths were non-law enforcement officers. Some of you may have read or seen, we had an officer-involved shooting yesterday. Those are considered homicides, and so those count towards our totals as well. We have 3 of those total this year so far, and hopefully no more. Quick anecdote on that, officers doing well. The investigation's been handled by a third-party independent team, and we'll await the results. The information I have at this point available to me, which is really limited. Believe it or not, I don't get access like I used to, but the information I have right now makes me feel that we as an organization do the right things the right way, and I'll leave it at that. Okay? Is that okay, Pat? I got my attorneys back there gonna give me a hard time. Some demographics. This is from a prior presentation. I left them in there if you're wondering. We have a lot of questions about, how many of these involve teenagers. For whatever reason, Kent's numbers are really high in shootings with youth offenders. But if you look, there's some OGs in there doing stuff to people, and we've got victims that are older than you might think. Okay, so there was that. Associated crimes. Okay, so our murders, and that number's low. That 54% is the ones that I could verify concretely for you. This was related to drugs. I will tell you most of them are related to drugs. I just can't prove it. Okay, when we look at zero enforcement of drug possession laws in the state, and we look at not doing that, the unintended outcome of that is violence goes up because people who want to control drug trafficking commit violence to control that drug trafficking. Okay? And that's how this goes. Robbery nexus for 23%. Domestic violence was 23% of the murders And then 2 of these I can say concretely based on evidence that they were gang-related incidents. Okay? Weapons used, 11 of them were handguns, and 2 were just blunt force objects. What's driving crime? Well, we have a fentanyl major crisis in our area, particularly. The data is going up, but last year 2 people died every day from fentanyl overdose in our county. 110,000 plus people died last year alone in our country from fentanyl overdose. 110,000 people. It is the most devastating, lethal drug that I have seen in my 32 years. When I started my career, I could grow hair. I used to run around with a mullet, and they paid me to be undercover and buy drugs in downtown Honolulu. And I got to do that at the tail end of the crack epidemic and the incoming rise of methamphetamines. And I never thought I'd see anything worse than crack and meth. I was wrong. I almost miss crack versus fentanyl. The lethality is real. It is a one-and-done drug, and it is so powerful. The notion that somebody could just walk away from using fentanyl is not a reality. You need help to get off of fentanyl. You need medical assistance so you don't die when you're withdrawing from fentanyl. It's really bad, okay? So we do a lot. We spend millions of dollars in Narcan, every first responder, it's in our schools, it's in our public buildings. If we didn't have our officers trained in life-saving skills to the degree they are, that death toll would be much higher. And so it's a real issue, and that is your number one driver of crime across the board. There is no doubt about the nexus there, okay? Homeless camps are a big issue. If you look, and this is an indictment on our homeless community members, we care about them, we want to help them, but there are some facts with that. If I do a heat map and I show you where the hot spots in the city are for crime, and then I overlay that heat map with locations of where our larger homeless camps are, you will see that those are very similar locations in our city. Okay? And there is no doubt they are connected. Unbalanced approach. We have a representative from the prosecutor's office here, so I'll be on my best behavior. We think that there has been a shift in the last few years with an overemphasis on the offender. And it's no mystery. I was only kidding about it. This is no mystery on where we stand on this. We feel like there is a lot more that needs to be done for the victim. We want to get restorative justice. We want to get people's lives changed around. We want to give them second chances. We're all for that. We cannot forget about the victims, right? We just can't. And then restrictions on law enforcement. I can do a whole day presentation on that. I will say this. I like to give credit where credit's due. Last year, we made some significant inroads in getting things level set to a degree in our laws. In Washington State, we can now pursue for reasonable suspicion versus probable cause, which is a reasonable suspicion means it makes sense, it's likely the person was involved in a crime, then our officers can pursue for that. We're talking about vehicle pursuits, okay? It's still limited to violent crimes, domestic violence, and a smattering of other crimes, but it was a step forward in terms of giving us more authority to do something about the carjacking suspect, right? Because one of the things we're going to talk about, sir, is prior to this past July, probable cause is such a high bar. Officers don't have probable cause to make an arrest when they show up. We have to investigate. We have to ask questions. We got to figure out who's involved in what. That takes time, and that time allows people to get away. If we can't detain people to conduct a suspicious circumstance-based investigation, then they leave. And when they leave, it's really hard to find them after the fact. One of the reasons I put a vast amount of our resources into investigations is because the laws put us in a position where we had to become very reactive to crime. The notion of preventing crime or just being in the right spot at the right time for crime went away. Staffing kills that, and not being restricted or being restricted to a higher bar for proof before we can stop somebody put a real hamper in that. The reason our homicides were down the way they were is our detectives are incredible. In 2021, we cleared 100% of our homicide cases. What that means is we solved and arrested all of them. Okay? Our numbers, national numbers, are somewhere around 53, 57 in that part for clearance of homicides. Our numbers float in the 90s. Okay? Our detectives are phenomenal. Our patrol officers know how to respond and manage evidence so that we can prove our cases later. Okay? So we're running our lap, is what I want to say. And then we're going to talk about staffing. Don't answer that, not yet. We're not there yet. That's just there. I know there's tons of questions, okay? So that's the crime overlay real quick. Very high level, I know. We'll talk specifics in a bit, but I want to turn it over to Deputy Chief Stansfield for his part of this, and then we're on to questions.
Thanks, Chief. So we're going to go through some staffing numbers and some of the challenges we faced historically, kind of give you where we were, where we are, and where we hope to go. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, but you'll have a chance to ask questions, and we'll go from there. So, yep, I am. Sorry. Stop it, Stacy. So, can I go?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, a little bit of a history lesson going back to 2018, because our staffing crisis that we find ourselves in and have found ourselves in didn't just originate in coming out of COVID and with some other crime numbers that Chief talked about. This is something that systemically we've been working on fixing for several years. So to go back to 2018, just kind of a snapshot, we were at, of these comparable cities, one of the metrics that we use is number of officers per 1,000 people. It's kind of a nationwide metric that gets used to kind of see, you know, the number of officers that you have per 1,000 people is just something that can be uniformly measured, so that's what we use to compare ourselves to other communities. And you can see here comparing Kent to some other communities back in 2018. Kent was at 1.24 officers per 1,000 people. That was a authorized staff of about 160 people. We were never fully hired to 160 people. We floated around 110 to 130 of officers ready to deploy. But fully staffed, we would be at 1.24. So comparably, when you look at Seattle through Renton there, you can see we were at the bottom of our comparable cities. At the same time, when I take those same cities and I compare them to the part one crimes per officer, so the number of our most violent and worst crimes that we would say are aggravated assaults and our homicides in 2018, and I look at how many of those crimes occur per those 160 officers, you can see Kent is at the very highest at 44.79 per officer. I think it's pretty easy to see there that the correlation of those two numbers is not helpful for us. So that's going back 2018, and it kind of stays that way all the way through 2020. Going forward, just to look at kind of some of the growth. So in 2018, we're actually authorized 157 officers. That grew through council and mayor approval to 160. The council and mayor had been adding 3 to 5 officers a year all the way 2018 up to 2020. 2020, COVID hit. We ended up freezing 5 of our vacant police officer positions, and several civilian positions were frozen or eliminated because of the economic impacts of COVID. That brought us back down to 160 in 2021. In 2022, the frozen positions were unfrozen, and we were allowed to hire again for those positions, but we're back up to 166. But you can see that our growth since 2018 is only about 5%. So we've added 9 sworn officer positions in the last 5 years. And that's one of the ways we haven't really kept up with population growth. In that regard, when we look at our population in Kent, this is today, our last census rather, we're at about 138,000 people with 166 officers, so we're actually down from 1.24 to 1.20. Again, really low in and amongst our comparables. You have some east side cities in Kirkland and Redmond. I don't have their crime statistics. I will just say they are lower than what we deal with. And we pull these from various places. A lot of these numbers are also available on the WASPIC website that chief referenced as well. They track these every year. Since then, one of the things is we've been talking a little bit about total authorized strength. As I mentioned before, we were also understaffed and we had not filled all our positions. And one of the things that is some of the best news I think you'll hear tonight is over the course of the last 15 to 18 months, we've actually hired over 45 now new officers. That's unheard of nationwide. Upwards of 25% of those officers are from diverse or underrepresented backgrounds, and 7 female officers are included in those numbers. That's a sevenfold increase over the prior 4 years of female officers hired. When we hire a new officer, there's about a 12-month onboarding process from the time they're hired until they're ready to be deployed, and we can send them out by themselves to the calls that are generated by the community. So that takes quite some time. Some are sooner because of there may be a lateral officer, but some of the stuff that we did that made that good news happen, we really took a deep dive, and I think this is some of the good stuff that came out of with police reform. We did start looking at a lot of things that we did in a different light, and that caused us to realize, hey, there's some changes that we can make to the way we go look for officers and who we hire. And really, there was kind of no stone unturned. So we made that was inside of our recruiting team. And then also the people that we use to train our officers and how we train them, we changed that. There's literally almost no part of our onboarding process that hasn't been looked at and modified over the last about 3 years. We have a great team that's had excellent results. They're nationwide known for what they've done. It's really, really impressive. And with that, we've instituted some incentives that have had great support from our city council and mayor that have also helped that along. Some of those things that we've started is our community immersion in law enforcement program, which pairs new officers with community-based organizations. They go out there, and before they ever get any real training from us, they're immediately embedded at a very grassroots level with a community organization to kind of help prepare them and also expose them to those that they will be serving. We also aligned our DEI, our Diversion, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, inside of our training unit, so they start receiving that type of training very early on in their career. And that is another pretty revolutionary thing that we've started to do. We've also developed some really specific training to us in how we look at officers for suitability, but also it's kind of counterintuitive. A lot of times we end up taking more time now with our new officers than we used to, because we know that while it may slow down their deployment to the street by a month or two, if we take a little bit more time, that's all the better, though. If we can retain them for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, that 6 to 8 week or even a couple month investment is well worth the time. So we've kind of revolutionize the way we look at all those different pieces. So talking about where we need to go, the chief has 4 department-wide goals. The one that I would really like to point out is inside of our strategic plan is we have a staffing plan. We have a plan that we're developing right now to grow. And how would we grow? We think there's 3 distinct paths to growth. One of these was attempted in last year's legislative session. By talking about withholding some sales tax that exists, having the legislature take some sales tax that is already paid and put that money and send it back to the municipalities specifically only for the hiring of police officers. And until cities were to a certain amount of officers per capita, that's where that money would go. That didn't make it through the legislature last year. We're going back with a different idea this year. We've talked about a ballot initiative. Would be something that would come across to the voters to decide how revenue could be generated in that way to hire more officers. If that is not feasible, then we would go back to what we were doing in 2018 and before of hiring 3 to 5 officers per year. The issue that we see with that, while we appreciate the support in that regard, our target growth, we want to get just to 1.4 or 1.5 officers per 1,000 people. That would require us to be about 195 officers, so we're about a 40 officer differential there. At 3 to 5 officers per year, to get to that number, that's at least 8 years. Right? looking at those numbers. And with that, we also have to have a path to increase our civilian staff because we can't just grow officers. There's a lot of things that happen in the back end. People have to staff the jail. We have to have records personnel. We have to have community outreach personnel, and we have to grow all of it in totality. We can't just grow just sworn officers. Again, and that makes the entire process that much slower. So I kind of blazed through that. If you have any questions as to what I covered there, please fill it out on another question card, and we'll try to address the specific question that you might have that arose from this. But with that, Chief, I think, thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief. One thing to close this topic out, and then we're going to get to the cards. Real important to note, if you notice that we did have some growth, we had some positions authorized. I want to make this crystal clear. The support from our elected has been consistent and has been good and very strong. And so I don't want this to come across as the council doesn't approve funding. That's not the issue. We are not a wealthy city. We are actually on the lower end. Our median income in this city is really low, which means our revenues have to go a lot further here than they do in Mercer Island. We just don't have enough. So there's strong support, and everyone agrees this is an issue we want to get better on, we want to improve. But right now, the revenue sources available don't get us here like we needed back in 2018. Okay, so we have to look at something that's going to have an impact today so we can start doing the things that you need us to do. Okay, as promised, I don't even have the card. Sir, robberies. Your question.
I was out of this area when these two home invasions occurred. I actually read the article. I guess it was Fox reported it, and I track community information that goes on in Seattle, and I am in touch with people in the Asian Pacific Islander community. So we've been knowing about Asian elderly being preyed upon by, I don't know who this is that's doing this, but they're just very aggressively coming through the front door. The article I read said there were 5 people that came through the front door and just kind of just overwhelmed, older Asian folks. And culturally, I understand a lot of our folks, we keep jewelry in the house, we keep cash in the house. Probably these individuals know that. But what really alarmed me was I learned that there were 2 that were within houses of each other over there by Kent Ridge High School. I live in that area, and my neighbor here he's here as well. And growing up, we were the fathers that took care of all the young people in the community. And you see the gray hair here. But the heart and the commitment to take care of our community, it's very much still alive in both him and I. And preying on our elderly, not acceptable. We're not going to tolerate it.
Yeah.
It has to stop. And so I know I support you all. I support the mayor. I appreciate what you've done through COVID. I love how much you stand up for our community. So you have our support as well. But I'm just curious to know how much information do we have? How much staff is assigned to this specific crime? Like I said, it's happening in Seattle. It's happening to Asian elderly, and it's very bothersome. And I heard what you said about, it's kind of unfortunate that you have to communicate to folks that they have to defend themselves. And there are some of us that we're okay. We're okay with understanding that we got to protect our families. But I appreciate you all having this forum. I would tell you I'm very, very bothered by this. I mean,
Absolutely.
where I live, there is a lot of Asian elderly, and I'm telling you, they are just, I don't know. I'm going to stop right there because I know you have some things to say.
Thank you, sir. And your name, sir? Sorry.
My name is Rick Farias. I've been in this community for 30 years.
Right.
And this is my home.
Got it. Rick, thank you. I very much appreciate what you said and your question. So I always get to walk the delicate line of providing what I can and not messing up the investigations of my detectives. Everybody follow me on that? So there's limitations is what I'm saying. So we know there's an issue. Some of us who have gray hair as well, or no hair, I guess, I remember back in the early 2000s, we had Asian families being victimized in burglary, and it was specifically what we learned, and we bust up a group of organized teams that were doing it. Back then, what we learned was that a lot of our Chinese community members put the symbol for good luck on the front of their doors, and that became a beacon to these criminals to please come here and look for money and break into our house. Fast forward, we're starting to see that cycle again. What I can tell you is that there are regional groups that are organized and they're doing this. I get the question as to whether or not it's a hate crime, and it depends on what they do and how they do it. But there is no doubt hate crime, just slightly separate for a second, presume that it is a hate crime. It really is also about opportunity. They have figured out that there's a source of money that they can get to, and they're going after it. And we're doing everything we can to get a handle on it. I will tell you that we have made arrests in one of the cases that happened recently, but there's several more in the region that we're working on. I can tell you that our detectives are networked, and they are sharing information about all the cases that go on. And from that, they're using pieces of information to go after people. I'm going to get in trouble here. I got my assistant chief in charge of investigations is eyeballing me right now. I can also tell you that we have identified some of the major players, and we are working to bring them to justice. Okay? In our law, we have to put together our case and our evidence, but I will tell you that you're going to start to see us post about the arrests we make. And I will tell you, because of the nature of these things, if they're adults, and I want to be really clear, if they're adults, I feel very comfortable. Our prosecutor's office has been stepping up big to make sure these cases are getting attention. So it is a priority for the entire county. We've had regional meetings on it, and we're mobilizing to do what we can, sir. In the interim, please make sure we're calling, make sure we're looking out for each other, okay? When I say I have to admit that people have to do more to protect themselves, that isn't a mandate and that isn't a call to anything. It's a reality, and I feel bad having to say it. So I want to just clarify that point, okay? Sir, I feel you, and it's not acceptable. We're working on it. So.
And I just want to say to all of you, thank you so much. Like, we in this community, we support our police force. I just want you to hear that. None of this ridiculous nonsense. It's about supporting y'all. You guys got a very difficult job. So you see all the people in this room. We want to stay in lockstep with you, keep pace with this, because Kent's a wonderful place, and we got to protect it. So thank you so much for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Sure. I like when you read them. That's always better. All right, here's how this goes. It's one of my favorite parts. I'll take the heavy, hard questions, as that's my job. But I've got experts in the room, and so we'll be having them come up to address the questions in their field, okay? But the fun part for me is I get to go, you. Go ahead, Stacey.
This question, have there been any updates on King County clearing up the homeless encampments along 94th Place South?
Wow. Okay, right out of the gate, I get to call on somebody who outranks me because our mayor's informed. She's been working weekly with King County, and Mayor, would you mind coming up and speaking to that?
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, everyone. Let's start with the really hard one, right? And I appreciate that question. It is something that we have been working on in my office, the police department, and along with the city of Auburn now for quite a few years. So for those of you that aren't aware, there is a section of unincorporated King County in between Kent and Auburn along the Green River Road. A couple of years ago, because there was a lot of confusion about that, we actually went as far as putting up signs that say, leaving the city of Kent, entering King County. Auburn did the same thing, so that we were helping to identify that problem. In that middle section, we call it Titus Pit. Not because it's like a pit, because it was actually a pit, a gravel pit. So the county has, for many years now, allowed probably one of the largest homeless camps in the state to collect there. It causes problems for Kent, it causes problems for Auburn, it causes problems for the neighbors that live there, the soccer fields, the golf course, all of those things. We have been asking the county repeatedly in weekly meetings to do something about it. to no avail. At the beginning of last year, the executive talked about there being $5 million to do something to help with that camp. The idea that they came up with was to lease out a hotel on the West Hill of Kent and relocate everyone there. We stayed engaged in those conversations because I wanted to make sure that Kent had a voice, not our money, not our decision, but we were at that table asking questions about how is it going to be run, how is it going to be managed. We continued to participate. About a month ago, we got word that the $5 million wasn't enough money, and they weren't going to do that. This last week, after phone calls daily to the executive's office, I got finally something in writing with the commitment that the county is going to clear out the parking areas. So where the motorhomes, the stolen cars, all of those things are, they're going to be clearing those out by about the third week in November. Doing barricade installation, not allowing them to come back. The second half of that, though, is there's probably over 100 people living on the hillside on the riverbank in that area. The closest thing I've got to a commitment now is that within this next 6 months, the county will do something to relocate folks, whether it be offer them a place in a hotel, a tiny home village, something in unincorporated King County. It is not a perfect answer, but I will tell you it represents some progress because we have not been able to get any attention there. It's been all over the news lately. I saw it on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, that there's getting more attention to it. I think the county is finally feeling that pressure. It certainly is coming from my office, like I said, on a weekly, sometimes daily basis to get something done there. I don't have a lot of faith that the folks that are living down there are going to accept services. They've been offered services over and over again, but what we're asking is that the county make that offer, move folks out, and then activate that space so that they don't come back. And right now, I have an email from the executive's office saying that they're going to do it in 2 phases, and those are the 2 phases. So we're hopeful. Lots of questions about why isn't Kent doing anything? It's not Kent. I can't send Kent police officers in to make arrests in Federal Way. Same thing with unincorporated King County. So what we can do is apply pressure on the political side, and that's what I'm doing. So, any follow-up questions on that?
Has there been any consideration of annexation?
Truthfully, we have had that conversation, like what would it look like if we offered the county to take that area over? Couple of problems there. What it currently exists, there's no revenue that comes along with that area because it really is just open space, the river, that kind of thing. So not in any sort of actual way. I think it's absolutely drug related that's down there.
Just like a police presence once a week or something doing a speed trap would do immense, it's all day long. They put in the new speed bumps, they're about 2 inches high. They just fly right over them. And then when they stop, they get mad and then they burn out now and go to the next one. And it's like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning listening to that all night long. I mean, just, Chief, just a little bit of a presence will go a long way.
Absolutely. So we'll put that as number 1 on our list to follow up on. So thank you for your question, and I'm frustrated and I feel for you. It should not be that way. It probably wasn't that way 5 years ago. Right. So you're hearing my theme. And it's the reason we included our staffing number to that, right? So the reason you don't see patrols is we're staffed so that we answer 911 calls. I'm just going to be straight with you. The preventative patrols, what used to be the favorite part of the job for me, cruising around, used to go around at night in your neighborhood. Yes, that was me and several in this room. those are very few and far between. And I want to be specific. Are you off at 259th there? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Okay, we got you. That's the first one. Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, I have a follow-up for you. Would it be helpful if some of your residents contacted the elected officials in King County, including the executive and our local area, I don't know what, well, mine's Dave Up the Grove, if we contacted them saying that we're taxpayers and we can't use or access this part of our world?
Rick, thank you for that question. And the answer is 100%. kcexec@kingcounty.gov. I'm not shy. I've been telling the exec's office when somebody emails me with that question, my immediate response is you need to let the King County executive know. This is fully within his authority and the county's authority, and the more that they hear from people, other than me, because honestly, I'm a pain in their backside and I think they get tired of hearing from me, I'm not giving up, but the more of you that are willing to reach out and say, we're not okay with this is not acceptable. Two fronts, right? It's not acceptable for the neighbors. It's not acceptable to let people live that way. I've walked through those encampments and no one, I don't care if it's your best friend or your worst enemy, none of us should be okay with letting people live that way. It's not compassionate. It is not the right thing to do. So 100%, please reach out.
We have the last question right here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We're gonna get to them. This is why we do cards, by the way. Go ahead, Stacy.
I have to protect Chief from himself.
Last and
You
fast.
guys write down these questions so we can answer everybody's question. It's very important, and we want to get these through. So this is the absolute last microphone of the night. Okay, good to go.
Okay, for Mayor Ralph, a quick follow-up, because I've gotten an email from the county as well, and it says, it mentioned that the roads in that area, they were going to be clearing, cleaning, and securing that area. So from there, when they're saying securing, I'm thinking that they are going to remove the homeless individuals and keep them from returning.
Yeah, so the process is different for county than it is Kent, and I think this is an important distinction, because the laws are the same for the both of us, okay? There's a reason you don't see 3-year-old massive homeless camps in Kent. We have camps, don't misunderstand what I said. And we have gone back 5, 6, 7, 8 times to clean out camps. We've spent millions of dollars on cleaning up camps. So what's the difference? Why don't we have Titus Pit in the city limits? And here's the difference. You have to authorize your law enforcement officers to use and enforce the laws that are on the books in order to motivate some people to move. We go in, we do outreach, we bring services, we have counselors, mental health professionals, people with housing, our team, Mike O'Reilly's team, and others do an outstanding job. Some people take help, very few, most do not. And we go back and we post and we say, if you do not get out of this area, we will prosecute you, we will arrest you, and we will book you. And miraculously, you know what happens? They leave. Now, I'm not standing up here kidding anybody that solves the problem, but that's what we're limited in doing, and my boss tells me do what we can. That's the difference. The King County deputies who worked really hard in King County, and I love them, are not allowed to arrest anybody for violating the law and the trespassing at Green River. They're not allowed. That is a policy decision. That is not a law. Okay? That's the difference. That's why things are different here. But thank you very much for your question. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So it is my understanding from my communication with the executive's office that they're doing that. They're going to go in, they're going to remove the vehicles, the motorhomes, all of that, and then they will do something along the lines of ecology blocks or something that will prevent people from going back, and that the deputies will be authorized to keep at least those sections of the roadway clear. Again, it's 2 phases is what they've presented. The first phase is to remove the vehicles along there, and then the second phase, which they've given us about a 6-month timeline on, would be to start working on the people that are living in that pit area along the riverbank and on the hillside. With the commitment that they will not allow them to come back.
With the commitment that they will not allow them to come back. So, fine point on this real quick, and then we're off to the next card. We have an example of how it works. Recently, 2 weeks ago, we went to area in King County, down on the another part of the Green River that abuts Kent city limits. Our team worked and negotiated, and we said this: how about you let our officers do the enforcement, and we'll work to help clean it up, even though it's not completely Kent, it's shared property, and we'll go in and deal with it. That camp was cleaned out, and it was a very large camp, was cleaned out in a matter of days, like 3 days. There is a way to deal at least with the immediate problems, and we have to start doing that. Letting them live in this way just doesn't work. Voluntarily not doing that anymore approach doesn't work. All right, question.
So in an effort to get to a lot of these questions, I'm summarizing some of them. There's a lot of similar questions that ask about self-defense in the home and whether or not they can use firearms and bear spray, that sort of stuff.
All right, I'm looking at who I want to have answer this question. It's a little bit of a complex question, but it's not. So I'm going to start, and then anybody feels like you need to jump in, please do so. So here's what the law says. You have a constitutional right, both at the federal level and at the state level, to protect yourselves, that includes your families, and your property. It is a constitutional right, okay? Where things get tricky is how you do that and whether or not in defending yourself you are reasonable in your actions, okay? And it's literally case-by-case dependent. The question I get all the time is if someone breaks into my house and I'm a legal gun owner, can I use a gun to defend myself? And the answer is, if you fear safety for your fear at risk for your life or your family's life, the answer is yes, you can. That's not an endorsement. That's not a mandate. That's not a call to action. I'm letting you know what the Constitution and the law allows you to do. Yes, you can. Where the unreasonable part comes in is we have incidents where someone breaks in. Lawful gun owner says, stop or I'm going to shoot you. Bad guy stops, turns around and runs. Lawful gun owner now pursues bad guy and shoots at them as they run away. We went from reasonable defense of yourself and your property to now actively pursuing to try and shoot someone. Probably not going to go well in terms of court. We are probably going to be pressed in a position to do a criminal investigation and refer the case for prosecution. Whether you'll be prosecuted, I don't know, but that's a slight difference. Here's what I say. If you're going to be a gun owner, please, please, please invest in training that includes covering the laws, giving you scenario-based, what if this happens, what if that happens, and make sure you know how to protect and lock up your weapon and also how to use it responsibly, okay? But the answer is yes, you have that authority to do that. Okay, it's not unique to Washington State. It's everywhere. It's our federal constitution. Okay, good questions.
Can you give an update on the Phoenix Court apartments on 240th and other apartments in that area?
This one I know I can call on. Commander O'Reilly, step on up, sir. Or unless you want to delegate to your sergeant, either way.
I kept looking down for a reason. So as you all know, we've been working with the Phoenix Court Apartment for the last at least couple of years. I have an officer that's been dedicated just to that project. So without getting into all the finer details, we're still in court with them. They have become more, what's the word I want to say? They're working with us a little bit more. We've been actively focusing some of our proactive patrols in there and making contacts for drug use, stolen cars, that sort of thing. We've been in there several times. They've started to put up some cameras. They've started to put up fencing and gates like we've asked them to do. So they're more cooperative now, but it's still a work in progress. We're not there yet. They still very much have our attention. So, but we're in constant communication with them. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. Yes, put a little finer point on that. We've been waiting for a decision from our judge for about a month now, maybe longer. I'm getting the longer look. We don't know why we don't have a decision. For us, our case is overwhelming. when you are the beacon of more violence than the next 5 highest properties in the city, and we've been trying to work with you for 2 years to help you fix that, and you won't do it, seems like there should be some action there, so we're waiting. Uh-oh, I may have stepped over the line, everybody. Here comes Chief Administrative Officer, also known as former city attorney, Pat Fitzpatrick.
I just want to say real quick, we knew that this case would be a serious challenge when we filed it. The case literally consists of about 12 inches of documentation and case reports and whatnot. And it's a very risky case. It's not a common case that cities file. You can't find them really anywhere. So we went on a limb, and our position was just filing the case would get us what we needed, and it has. They're starting to change. They've installed a number of cameras. I'm sure you haven't heard not much activity out there anymore, right? There's fencing around it now. They're fixing the gate. Yes, sorry. So the real victory came when we filed the case because it grabbed their attention. We have other things in the works that we're dealing with outside of the case. We still have not received a decision from the judge on a protection order, which usually comes quickly. It's a priority case in King County, but we still don't have an answer. But it doesn't matter because we're getting results. So that's what really matters. And I'm proud of our police department, did an incredible job helping our law department build that case. And so I think the results, you're seeing them because you're not hearing about it, right? So that's I think where the case is in my mind.
Thank you, sir. All right, your applause works. All right.
We have a lot of questions about seeing more traffic enforcement in the city and also complaints about street racing and excessive speeds on the roads.
Yeah. So I'll start this one. Let's do a scenario. We're out here. We go out after this meeting, and we watch 3 cars come in and just tear it up. And just do Brodies and smoke the wheels and cause property damage. How many people in here think that we can jump in our police cars and go get those guys, and if they don't stop, we can continue to pursue them? No hands. Good, the word's getting out. The answer is we can't pursue for racing, even the exhibition racing and the donuts in the parking lots. We are prohibited by law. You think the bad guys know that? Yeah. Yeah, the offenders know that. And so the reason that it's more prevalent in my mind is that there's no consequence for doing it in many cases. The good news is we have subject matter experts, and he's not here tonight. One of the experts in this state is Commander Josh Bava. He helped with our legal department and our prosecutor's office in the city to put together some legislation that gives us a little more teeth to when we do catch them, what we can do. Impounding their car, and my favorite part is if they get 2 convictions, we get to take their car and seize it, because they love nothing more important in the world than their cars. Okay, so I have to come back and say, we have a resource challenge with staffing, but even when we do emphasis, and we run emphasis most of the summers, every weekend, we have people on overtime working to come in and help. We call in regional partners that assist. WSB's been fantastic. Renton, Tukwila, King County, you name it. We come out and we do make arrests. We do make a difference. Our biggest success has been in the investigations after the fact, where we have targeted the organizers and gone after them, and we've made really big cases there. But as long as people understand that we can't really stop them, this is going to continue to be a problem. So I'm not advocating that we get the full tilt, carte blanche, chase everybody in the world and do a bunch of pursuits. That's not what we're asking for. But we have to come to grips, and you have to answer this question. Is the change in the pursuit laws having the impact that you want? Was the risk and the tragic, very small outcomes, the loss of life, mostly, by the way, of the offenders fleeing? That's your number 1 likely person to die in the fatality, by the way. Okay, real important. We've got to pay attention. We've got to be responsible. But the reality is that change in the law is having an impact. And we can continue to say it's not, but I can show you it is. Okay? So we're not quitting. We are pursuing when we can. We are putting together cases after the fact. We're leveraging technology, and that's what we've had to do. We have camera systems in place now. We've advertised them. I try not to talk about them too much, but we have technology in place now that helps us after the fact to start identifying at least the cars that were involved, and that gives us leads to go after the drivers and the racers. Okay? So we're leveraging technology, and we have made an impact. It's a ripple in the pond, to be honest with you. Traffic enforcement is a resource thing. If you were to ask me, Chief, what's the one thing you can do to reduce injury and death in your city that would have like an immediate overnight impact? You want to take a guess at what that answer might be? Yes, but something that I can control, something that I can do. I hear traffic enforcement. Anything else? Speed is also traffic enforcement. Same thing. Good. Anything else? Well, yes. I like where your head's at, but yes. So you guys are on the right track. There's decades of data that shows when you do traffic enforcement, speed radar, you stop people for running red lights, your collisions go down, your injuries go down, and your deaths go down. There's years of studies of that. Last year, we hit a 30-year high in the number of fatality collisions in our state, 30 years. And that's pretty amazing when you think of some things. Who drove some of the old cars, the 1970 vintage cars back in the day? Lots of metal, not a lot of safety, right? So you survived if your car was bigger than the other guy with the big car, right? The technology built into cars right now with the crumple zones and the crash prevention and the airbags is saving hundreds, if not thousands, of lives every year. Yet we're still breaking records in fatal collisions. Why is that? I think you guys are picking up the theme here. Yeah, okay, good. But we're rebuilding our traffic unit. We just plussed up another guy. We have another officer on the wait list. I'm supposed to have a sergeant in 10. Right now, I think I have a sergeant in 7. Once we build that up, you're going to see more people long term. We need to double that unit so that I have officers that respond to collisions and are collision experts and do felony cases like for vehicle homicides. And then I need a team that just does nothing but enforcement. In the interim, again, we're leveraging technology. You don't have to show your hands, but I know there's at least a few of you in this room that have contributed to our red light camera fund. And I just want to say thank you. I don't want to advertise this, but very few don't pay. Our payment rate is somewhere close to 83%. And I thought for sure we would be moving away from red lights because people would go, yep, we don't want tickets, we're done with it. We're breaking records every year. Our new cameras are already producing at the level of our old cameras. There is data, and it's not a ton, I don't want to oversell this. There is data that shows that collisions go down a little bit, but for some reason our violations they're COVID-proof, I don't know what it is. But people like to donate to our body-worn camera fund that all our officers use because that's where the money goes. We return it back into investing in accountability, transparency, and officer safety in the form of our body-worn cameras. So while I say jokingly thank you, there is a part of me that says, well, it's funding a good thing, so at least that's coming out of it. Okay, so there's where we're at on traffic stuff. More to come. I want people not dedicated to 911 calls. I need numbers. And if they're not running to 911 calls, they can be in your community. They can sit and run a radar. They can go to a park. They can get on a bike and go through the trail that's got people doing wrong things on it. Those are the things that are missing. Those are the game changers for our city, and we need your help with that.
We have a couple in regards to calling 911. This one, what can I do when neighbors show me ring videos of prowlers in their driveway checking out their vehicles and they refuse to call the police? What should they do?
That's a good one. Father O'Reilly, you want that one?
I'm sorry, I was researching something, Chief.
Isn't he good at getting out of questions? All right. So neighbor has evidence that we could use, doesn't want to submit it. Whose question was that, if you don't mind? Okay, man, you stumped the band, so I owe you like coffee or something. So here are some thoughts. These aren't necessarily the absolute answers on this. If you can get with your neighbor and have them give you the video, we'll take it from you. And I want that. If you want to dime out your neighbor and give us a contact information, my team will try to reach out and say, can we please have the video? But I do not have the authority, nor do my officers have the authority to compel someone to do that, is the answer. Oh, sure, now.
When we do go to respond to crimes like that, maybe it's a bigger scene, homicide, a major assault type thing, we'll canvass the neighborhood, and that's exactly one of the things that we're looking for is camera evidence. We also have a Safe Cam program. I don't know if we have anything that advertises it here, but it's a way of just identifying yourself, saying, hey, I've got a camera, so the police department can save a lot of time and energy going door to door and knocking when we just know. It just identifies you, hey, if the crime occurs on my block, attaboy, you can come right over and get my camera, you can have access to it. It doesn't mean we're going to be looking through your camera all the time. It just says that, hey, I got a camera, I'm willing to cooperate and help out you guys make my neighborhood safe.
All right, good.
The Safe Cam information can be found on our website. So you just register cameras, where they're located, and a few other pieces of information. So we kind of had a follow-up to crime reporting.
Let's do it.
Went to the police station about a stolen mailbox and asked for more more information, someone to contact me, and I did not hear back.
Okay, whoever you are, I'd like you to see that guy with the gray haircut like mine right after this, and we will make sure that we get and follow up with you. Next question.
With the state of crime in Kent today, how much additional funding would it take to effectively enforce all the laws in Kent? And
All the laws.
And how do we write a levy where 100% of the funding goes to policing versus social programs?
Got it. Just say no. I don't know what it will cost to fund enough people to enforce all the laws. But I like where your head at. I think the intent of that question is, and I get this a lot, if we're not paying attention to the little things, they become big things. And I get that, right? It used to be we really subscribed to the broken windows theory, and for whatever reason, politics and what, broken windows kind of became a bad word. But so take the name away. I am with you, and that's our goal. We need to address the little things when we can so they don't become big things, and so amen to that. In terms of funding that I can give you to quantify for you to get us the staffing that we need and the supplemental support personnel staff like our evidence techs, crime scene techs, and that thing, we're looking at $12 million a year. It's a big number. And I know it's a big ask. Right now, we project that 0.3 of a sales tax increase at current rates that we have in the city would get us to the $12 million. Okay, that's what, I'm sure there's a finance person who could tell me what that might be in a different revenue stream, but we know the numbers for sales tax right now. So, Mayor, did you want to speak to that at all, or Pat, or? Yeah, O'Reilly's going to give you the hook, Mayor.
With the commander over there. So you heard Chief say it's somewhere in that $12 million ballpark would allow us to staff up police officers. And then, as you can imagine, we have more officers, they're making more arrests, processing more traffic tickets, that kind of thing. So we need prosecutors, we need the support staff. So it's a complete package. 0.3% of sales tax would get us roughly that $12 million. So, and I think maybe this was your punchline at the end. But I'll save it for the end, but we're in that $12 to $15 million range. If you look back, a little bit of history, in 2008, the state changed the way they source sales tax, and the city of Kent then lost about $13 million a year. In my non-finance brain, that's probably close to $20 million a year now that we are not getting as a city, and that's part of where that gap got created. That funding went away. So we are fully staffed to budget, but our budget doesn't match where we need to go for staffing.
Great question. Last part of that question is, how do we ensure that that money doesn't get diluted or diverted or put to something that was not your intent to authorize? And I will answer this. I think the obligation's on us, and me specifically, that if we come out with an ask of the voters, you need to have a very detailed accounting in writing of how we're going to use that money. And so I will stand before you right now and say, I will tell you neighborhood by neighborhood what this money is going to do for us in terms of response from police. That's my commitment. Okay?
Okay. Why are criminals returned to the streets so quickly? And then it says juveniles receive no penalties.
So I was thinking about the questions I was hoping not to have to answer. That's a pretty complex thing, and I want to be fair. On the juvenile front, the philosophy now that's applied in the courts is a zero youth incarceration philosophy. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the facts and try to leave my bias out of it, because I do have a bias. The fact is that the approach or the data that's being used indicates very strongly and very consistently over time that once a youth is made a part of the criminal justice system through a prosecution for criminal charges, the likelihood of that youth remaining in the system and becoming a lifelong criminal is very high. Okay, that's what the data shows, and I don't dispute the data at all. I think that's a reality. So the philosophy, and we've had lots, Mayor and I used to have meetings once a month, we're realizing that while the prosecutors have a piece of this, the courts also have a huge piece of this, and the judges, because it actually started with the judges, this initiative. In King County, we're the only county that has this right now in Washington. And so our concern from a law enforcement and from somebody who's responsible for ensuring you're not getting carjacked by a 15-year-old is that the unintended message there is there's not accountability. When someone commits an armed robbery and does not go to juvenile detention, I don't know what the message is to the 14-year-old. I don't. Those cases, all but the most violent cases, are being deferred, and they're going for programs, restorative programs, trying to work with the youth to get them what they need, looking at some of the root causes for the condition in which they live in to address the issue. Do I know that it's working? The answer is I don't know yet, okay? You can look at numbers in a bunch of different ways. I can tell you a number says that juvenile cases referrals are down, but I also tell you we're not enforcing drugs. And when we know that 70% of our prosecution referrals in the past have been related to a drug nexus, I don't know that we can come out and say that's victory. I can say that we're prosecuting less related to drug, so it's less overall. So we need time to see. Our approach in this is we're trying to be really good partners in giving this an honest opportunity. I think there is, and we have advocated for, a reconsideration of which charges qualify for this program. I believe that violent crimes involving youth with guns should not qualify for a deferral immediately and right away. So that's me. So I talked in generalities there. At the same time, I want to be fair. I think that for some youth, this probably is working. So it's a mixed bag. So there's the program. My thought on this, to me, when I looked at this, and we've been talking about this for years, when I looked at the data that says that once you're in the system, you stay in the system as a youth, I don't dispute that, okay? Because I got family that have all been in prison. But my question is, why are we approaching it where we say, let's not arrest them? Why don't we approach it like, maybe we need to look at what and how we run our detention centers? Maybe the restorative opportunity for our youth exists in the ability for the things we can control, which is while they are serving their time, we build them up in the right way with education, treatment, whatever they need, mental health. We build our youth detention facilities and resources in a way that while they're in jail for a year, they're in the best environment they've ever been in their lives. Why isn't that the approach? Just a question. I said I wasn't going to do my bias, I lied.
Okay, Chief, there's a specific question about something that happened yesterday afternoon involving 7 to 10 officers and a police helicopter that was up in the air for about 20 to 30 minutes, and that they were broadcasting something that wasn't clear, and that led into some other questions that are similar. Is there a communication tool like an Amber Alert or similar available to alert citizens of neighborhood risks, i.e. like a lockdown broadcast or something from a chopper, or is there some way they can get notified if there's somebody real-time dangerous in their neighborhood?
Yeah, whoever put this question out, thank you. So there's a gap of information that I don't have that I'm trying to close. We do not have, or nor do we control, a helicopter. King County Sheriff's Office has the helicopter. They're great partners. We use them frequently. There's a lot going on in Kent, and I'll just be honest, the pilots like to hang around Kent because they know sooner or later they're going to be called into duty. That's just a fact. Okay? But I've had 2 incidents now on our East Hill where there's been operations going and a helicopter, I think that's been described to me, that's likely King County Guardian 1's helicopter with announcements being made. And every time I get this, I'm like, that's not us. I don't know what's going on. So I'm trying to get back to figure it out, like what's going on. What's even more puzzling to me about this is that our King County Guardian 1 helicopters, I've never seen them broadcast warnings over a speaker ever.
If I may, I did have an incident recently where, yes, they will use their loudspeaker, but they're directing it at the suspect. It's usually, hey, the police are coming after you, you're under arrest, stop, that sort of thing, and that's what they were using it for. So that's my experience with it.
Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
I have 3 dogs. I have concealed weapons. I don't, yeah.
It's
sorry.
for the, go ahead, I'll just hold it
Okay,
there for you.
thank you. And an ex-air traffic controller, so I know what goes on upstairs. I heard him. I went, oh, we got a problem in the neighborhood, okay?
Was he saying that, though?
It was the one yesterday.
But was he giving orders to a bad guy?
No.
Oh, okay.
And that's why he saw me, and there was, you guys were everywhere all over on 108th. I live on the corner of 108th and 212th. And he was, when he saw me out there, they were doing the search. They didn't know where he was. I have tall trees. I have lots of buildings in my backyard. There was tons of places for him to hide. I unholstered, I took my dogs out, and I patrolled the property. And he saw me out there just as he was going over, and he said something about there's a black man that is a suspect. I couldn't get it all, and that was the problem, you know. And I'm pretty self-sufficient, but my neighbors may not be. And if we're in that great of danger, don't you think we should be knowing about it?
Okay, everybody get that? I think that's a great question. So there's layers to that. Do you want to say something?
I can help you with it, whatever you need there, Chief.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would tell you first off, don't go outside. If you see police activity and you see there's a helicopter, stay inside, be a good witness, and call us. And if you call 911, sure, but call 911, and we'll tell you, hey, stay inside. There's police activity. They're looking for a bad guy. We may not give you every little detail, But we'll feed you in at least, hey, stay inside, and we can give you a heads up, and we can have an officer even contact you afterwards and maybe give you a little more information.
Telling me about the suspect, shouldn't he have just said that in the, up front? I would have gone.
So if you're talking about the helicopter, they can't hear you.
No, but I'm
So,
saying he's broadcasting to me to give me a description of, for whatever reason, obviously it was some major incident.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But if he's describing this individual to me, and I'm assuming it's to me, because there was no voice until I went out and started, and I made it clear that I was armed.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, if you're arming yourself, we as police officers, we don't know who you are. And if we're looking for a bag and we come up on you, we just don't want to have anything bad happen. So just stay inside. Yeah.
AC?
Also, we might have a canine out.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a 6-foot fence all around my entire property.
We navigate fences all the time looking for bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. So here's, and AC, if you have something, here. Yep. So item number 2, we're going to contact Guardian 1 and figure out what their protocols are, express the concern, and see if we can manage that differently.
Well, but that would even be good information for the neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, let me touch on that real quick. Our ability to put out real-time information while we're in the incident is really limited. Yeah, like we struggle, like the way that the information goes out now through social media, we literally have news crews arriving to major incidents before our command does. They're in our business, so it's tough a little bit, but your concern is valid. Let's do some digging and we'll circle back, okay? Yes, sir. Okay. When it works, okay. Yes, ma'am. All right. Great question. Thank you. So here's the deal. I love the fact that you want to know. I love the fact that you care. I love the fact that you feel comfortable defending your property. And so all of that's good. Here's my concern. Bad things happen in these dynamic scenarios, and I don't want a bad thing to happen to you by a good officer trying to do the right thing. Particularly at night, I will tell you in my career, I have times where I was that far away from shooting the wrong person, milliseconds. It's not because I'm a bad cop. It's not because I like being brutal and violating the law. These things are pretty dynamic. You're chasing people with guns, sometimes rifles, knives. And so scaring a cop or surprising a cop is not, it could happen, and I'd ask you just to understand that part of it. The other part of it is that while we want the information, a crowd gathering becomes, I'm just going to say it, becomes a problem for us to manage. And so it requires me now to take officers away from the critical side and go and make sure that people aren't getting too close. And so just consider that. I get the wanting to know, right? I'm a police officer. Even I off duty go, what's going on? It's human nature, but just keep that in mind, okay? Question. I know, Commander, I know.
Somebody had trouble finding goals and objectives on the Kent PD website. They were just wondering if there was a present policy handbook that they could get their hands on. And then is progress to plan published? I'm not sure.
Okay, I can answer the first two. The first two are goals and objectives, and our policies are available through a portal, public portal on our website. Okay, so go to kentgov.wa, click on the police tab, and start looking in there. You'll see our annual reports in there, and our policy. We have a portal. You click on the link, and you can search to your heart's content with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of policy that's on there. But it is available for transparency purposes, obviously. The last part of it I didn't get. Are we getting the last part?
I think they're asking more about our what reports we publish every year.
the annual report? You want to speak to that?
On our website too, you'll see that we publish our annual report every year that goes through a lot of the crime statistics and what we've been doing, and it's a great bundle of information that kind of talks about, and it includes goals for, the upcoming years and things like that. So if you go on our website, you can see the annual report on there.
Great. And since we're talking about information delivery, how many of you get our monthly crime information community education report? That's way too many hands. So Stacey, how do they get that report?
So you can either email myself or Sarah Wood, and we have our information on the back of like the Block Watch brochure, and we can add you every month. The last Thursday of each month, we send out our monthly newsletter, and it includes some crime prevention information or anything. If there's any crime trends that are occurring, we'll report on that as well, in addition to any upcoming events that we're having at the police department. So if you're interested, feel free to send us an email and we'll add you to our list.
Thank you. It's a good product, so it's worth the read for sure.
How many police are in each location in Kent at a given time, like East Hill, West Hill, etc.?
DC, do you want to speak to that?
So target staffing is what we would call that. Right now, our patrol division consists of probably right around 56 patrol officers they work 12-hour shifts. And so the city's broken into 4 sectors. So at any given time, you're going to have, except a few hours of the day, you'll have a couple sergeants on, and usually between 8 and 14 officers available for shift. So if we're at 8 officers per shift, that's really low. We don't like to be that low. But when we are, we'll oftentimes consolidate those into the Valley sector, which is generally from the top of the East Hill around 94th all the way down to the Green River. And then, so we'll try to put 4 officers down there, and then we'll try to put 4 officers on the East Hill, broken up between the 2 sectors up there. So we would do 4 and 4. That would be our probably absolute minimum that we would like to run at. We do drop below that sometimes. Unfortunately, when we're doing it like that, the officers that work in the Valley, they only just respond up to the West Hill if there's incidents up there that require them to. We don't have officers that are stationed up there at that point. As the number of officers grow and we get up to 14, we'd like to have 6 or 7 down in the Valley, 2 up on the West Hill, and the remainder on the East Hill. But that hopefully gives an idea of kind of about where we allocate officers every day. The sergeants are constantly adapting those numbers. If incidents happen, we shift officers around to go to those incidents, and officers from the Valley will go up to the East Hill, or officers from the East Hill drop down into the Valley if the Valley officers have to go up to the West Hill. So we adapt a lot, but breaking down in those 4 sectors, that's generally how we try to allocate officers every day. Our target staffing, when we have all 166 of us trained, would be 17 officers on each crew to assign out. That's a lot better number. And then it can deal with things like training or people out if they're injured or maybe out having a family event like a new child or something. We have a lot more resiliency there, but we're not quite there yet because we have a lot of officers in the training pipeline right now with the numbers that we've hired over the last year. So I hope that answered your question.
All right, thank you, Deputy Chief Stansfield. Yeah, a little thing to add to that too, it doesn't take a lot. When we run as lean as we do, it doesn't take a lot for most of our resources to get sucked up for one thing. We mentioned the officer-involved shooting from yesterday. I will tell you for a good percentage of the time, almost every officer we had was dealing with that, okay? So think about that, and probably 2 or 3 officers left to cover the rest of the city. And you saw our numbers, we're super busy. So we run thin, and we make it happen because we have outstanding people that do it. But again, we're going back to that theme of wouldn't it be nice if we had more than just enough, right?
I have about a handful more.
Okay.
How many officers are on administrative leave?
Right now, none. 1. Yes. I think the intent of that question was how many are on administrative leave for being in trouble? And the answer is none. The administrative leave for the officer yesterday is a protocol that we follow. And I want to be clear because I think people might get this confused. More than anything else, officers are human. And when you take a life, whether it's justified, not justified, that has trauma and impact. We need to make sure that our officers are well before we put them back out. Okay? So that's what that's about. Yes, we have one.
Okay, this is a hiring question. Do you hire police academy graduates or hire people and then send them to the academy?
Assistant Chief Grove? The answer is we hire everybody, the highest quality people we can find, and we're hiring for anybody in here that wants to know.
Oh, yeah, okay, so. Yeah, so our innovative recruiting is very robust, and we're looking for quality people from all walks of life in every stage. So we hire people before they go to the academy, and we do a lot of onboarding and training before we send them to the academy, including our community immersion program. So we get people mid-career that are looking for a change. We get people straight out of college. We get people who are starting college but haven't finished yet and are looking for a different career path. And we get people coming out of the military oftentimes or who are looking for a transition from deployment. So there's tons of avenues and we're really open. And if anyone knows someone that's interested, please reach out because we would love to talk to them.
Yeah, and if the root of that question was, is it paid training and all that? Yes, Kent pays everything. We have to hire you the moment we can get you if you're a top-notch candidate or somebody will steal you. So we hire them. We know there's a wait time sometimes in the ballpark of 6 months to get into the academy because it's overloaded right now. And we're getting more funding. We're getting more academies. And Kent is an agency. I worked in Honolulu PD before. Kent pays for everything. They do it right here for sure, and that's a big draw here. All right. So this one, it says, does Kent do events similar to tonight specifically for apartment dwellers? Judging by the participation tonight, it appears that maybe the demographic is more people with single-family homes, and so can we do that? The answer is we've had summits called our apartment safety summits, and we have done prior events at apartment locations, and we'd welcome the opportunity to do future ones. So if you have some place in specific you'd like us to go, we've been at several in the area of 240th and 104th over the years. I know I've been to those, and we'd be happy to go out. Generally, what we do is each time we do this, we pick a different section of the city, the host if we can, and we just invite everybody to that location. So.
So when we do like block watch presentations, we set those up for anybody, no matter if you live in apartments or single family homes or whatever it might be, and then we can adapt all the information to that. So we definitely try to educate all the residents in Kent. And then we also, another way, this is kind of not connected to that, but our community academy is a great way to learn about the police department and our different divisions within the police department. And you get kind of a lot of these questions answered too throughout the process. So that's going on now, and then there'll be a spring advanced academy that's happening. So, all right, next question. Does the arrested or detained suspects live in Kent, or are they coming from other communities? How does this affect KPD's tactics to address this?
So good question. Historically, the majority of the people arrested do not reside in Kent. That number has moved and shifted a little bit post-COVID, but still somewhere in the area of 65%-ish. I don't have the hard number for you tonight, are non-Kent residents that we arrest in Kent. Why? And we get a lot of people from the bigger cities, so Tacoma and Seattle come here and are neighboring. And the question I get a lot is, why is that? Crime is regional. Offenders don't recognize borders or jurisdictions or any of that. They go where opportunity exists. Most criminals are lazy, so they go where it's a lot easier to do business. I get the question about our auto theft numbers all the time. Per capita, we have more apartments. with literally hundreds and hundreds of cars lined up for the taking in our city compared to a city, say Mercer Island or Kirkland or Bellevue, where it's one car in a garage at each house. We will have, literally, you walk to our apartment complexes that have over 30 buildings in them. You know, we have small cities represented in some of our apartment complexes. So that's why we're kind of a target-rich environment here.
Okay, there's two questions, but they're connected a little bit. Where are stolen cars going? And then another question, what can be done to remove the residential chop shops that have sprung up?
Assistant Chief Hammond, you want that one? Eric was delayed getting here. He's our assistant chief over investigations. It's his detectives that have been crushing it.
So the first one is about the stolen cars. Where are they going? Our stolen cars go pretty much every place in King County. They'll find them in Kirkland, Bellevue, Tacoma. They go down to Pierce County. They go up to Everett. And it's the same the other way. Most of the cars we find in Kent aren't Kent cars. They're coming from Bellevue. They're stealing them in Bellevue. They come down to Kent, take a car from Kent, go to Tacoma, steal a car in Tacoma, go to Linwood, steal a car in Linwood, go to Everett, and it's this round robin, and then they finally end up back in Kent. So that kind of answers that one. The residential chop shops, you know, the best thing I would say is that we don't know of a lot of the residential chop shops. Nobody calls in. Everybody sees them. But we're not getting that information. So if you know where one is at, I would call 911 and let us have an officer come out and take a report. That way it can come to detectives and then we can look at them. One thing with the chop shops is my detective unit is about 9 detectives down. And with the carjackings, the home invasion robberies, the homicides, the assaults, the shootings that we've had this year, most of my detectives are handling all of those. And so for stolen cars, chop shops, those kind of crimes, we really only have 2, sometimes 3 detectives working on those. A homicide in the city, you know, the chief saw that we had 17, 18 this year. Each homicide usually takes 2 detectives at least a month of work. And so during that time, we have to pretty much take them away from every other crime that they're dealing with. So in one time during, I think it was between April and the beginning of June, we had 9 different homicides. And so I had pretty much all of my people just dealing with those 9 homicides. Because there's just so much information that they have to get with cell phones now, with cameras, with videos. And nothing is easy anymore when we investigate crimes. It used to be, this guy saw that guy murder him, and we can put him in jail and be done. Now we have to say, okay, well, I need to get that guy's cell phone and that guy's cell phone and her cell phone and the witness's cell phone. And then we have to get like 18 different warrants so we can get all the information from the cell phone to then backtrack, and it just goes on and on. So it just takes a long time. But the chop shops, the best thing you can do is call us so we can find out about them, so I can at least sign them out, and then they can start working on them.
Thank you. I'm glad I called on you. So on the work being difficult, that's the reality. You know, we get the question of, you know, have you used technology to leverage and be more efficient? Well, we have, but the requirements for courts and prosecution keep going up and up and up. And our defense process in the state is probably, if you don't know, the defense in the state is very well funded, which is a good thing. But they don't, and they have a limit on the number of cases that they can carry by law. Our prosecutors, there's no limit. Pile on as many as you can. And so there's a little lopsidedness in resources there, Raf Padilla's perspective. Lastly, there used to be this thing called civic responsibility. Everybody remember that term? We go to crime scenes and nobody wants to tell us anything. We go to gunshot victims in emergency rooms, or I guess they're called emergency departments now, EDs, and the victim who is getting life-saving surgery will not talk to us. So things get compoundingly worse, and we have to leverage technology to get them solved. again, our detectives are really good at it. Really good. It just takes time, right?
Okay, we have 3 more.
Yes.
What are good deterrents to stop your cars from being stolen?
Okay, I'll hit this down and dirty. Don't leave anything in your car. Park it in the safest place you can, including your garage if you have one, and invest in some auto theft prevention thing like the club. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee that you won't get it stolen, but that's so here's the name of the game. Also not something I'm proud to say to people. Make it harder to take your car than the next guy's. That's the name of the game. And if you drive a Kia, God help you.
Okay, I guess we just have one more. Any stats on hate crimes given the state of conflicts in the world?
Wow, good question. I don't have real-time stats for you. I will tell you that in Kent, we are a melting pot of over 140 languages spoken in our schools. And so you think proportionately we would have far more reported hate crimes than most cities. I will tell you no. I will tell you, I looked at data from a couple years ago, and surprisingly, a city like Bellevue had more reported hate crimes. And so we looked at that and we're like, oh, what is it us? Is it we're not, is there a training gap or what's going on? Are our harder to reach communities less likely to report? Do we have room to gather there? So we looked at that and we are leveraging those things. There was a recent summit held by the King County Prosecutor's Office on hate crimes. We sent 2 of our detective sergeants to be engaged at the regional level. So while I will say our numbers have remained fairly low and fairly flat, going off of just recall, and I don't have real-time numbers for now, it's not something that's really spiked in our community, that's wonderful, and I hope that's accurate because it's accurate and not accurate because there's something we're missing. But we're looking at is there something we're missing? And we're investing in the training specific to hate crime cases so we can be really adept at doing them. That's it? Okay, I think we can spare another 3 minutes, and then I'm going to call the mayor up because here's our ask, and I think you guys know what it's going to be. Yes, sir. Thanks for coming. Yeah, excellent. Great idea.
You said it earlier. They're after the money. They're after the prize. They're after the goodies.
Yeah.
So if you tell them there's no goodies, they will go to the next one. Second point is, with your car, lock it.
Well, there's that. I thought that was the obvious one. Yeah. The auto theft thing's a big deal. So great point. Item number 3 for us. Let's look at maybe offering that kind of thing. That's a great idea. Thank you. I saw a quick question here.
We have the mic right here.
Oh, he's got the mic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for coming out and meeting with the community. My question is on the funding. There's talk about sales tax, there's talk about property tax. I believe that the people of Kent are good people. If they can trust you and the administration, I think it would be good citizen involvement to send any tax increases to the people, and then they can have that discussion that they can be trusted. I just think that's a way of involving people, is taking this to the people.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. So let me go into plus. That's good. So I just want to share a little bit of history, and I want to share, and we'll probably take one more after this, and we got to wrap. We tried that. Anybody know how many times we went out to the voters to get more police staffing in the last 12 years? Anybody see us get anything passed? No, neither did I. Yeah. So to your point, we have gone out, and it hasn't passed. It's been close, but it hasn't been supported. And that's the reality. And I'm not trying to, that's not a statement, that's just history. Okay, I feel you. I think things are a little different right now. To the issue of should it go to the voters, that is part of our plan. We're going to get to that, but also part of our plan is what happens when we just get a anti-tax vote year after year after year after year. What happens then? Because we put it to the voters, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I think part of the responsibility is you elect your elected officials to make sure that we are doing the things that need to be done, even if they're not popular. And so we're asking for a little bit of room on that for a very specific cause, public safety, okay? And so you will get that opportunity to weigh in as well. So with that, last question, Mayor Ralph, if you could join me up here, please.
This isn't really a question, it's more of a statement, and it's, I'm looking at, elected officials and people in leadership, and actually my fellow neighbors, is that you see the best and you see the worst in us and in what's going on. And had officers come over, and when my neighbor passed away, because I failed, I'm a two-time failure in resuscitating neighbors, and each time the police officers were there, and obviously fire was there, and I just got to tell you, I couldn't do your job. I don't think I can do any of your jobs. But when we talk about budget issues, I do want to talk to you. We'll talk offline. I'll get a hold of you. But we talk about budget issues. Don't shortchange these people. Give them the mental health that they do need, whether they think they need it or not. Because I can tell you, if they're dealing with, I did just 2 instances. They're dealing with it every day. And guess what? They go home. And they got to deal with it, their family. So there's a lot of budget issues. We all got them right now. But don't shortchange these men and women that are out there trying to protect us. I'm serious. It's a bad scenario. And I don't think that we're paying them enough, but I'm not going there. The issue is when you got to make a budget decision, don't cut mental health. Don't cut the resources to these people. All right? So thank you. And Mayor, I know that, you know what? I want to tell you, you've been out in our neighborhood, and you're out in the community. This isn't about you, and that's not a negative slight on anybody here. It's just I know you're under a lot of pressure. Just don't let that be the budget item that goes.
Thank you, sir. I lied. We have one more. Mr. Wilson.
Again, it's kind of more of a comment. It's the same thing. My question was how much funding will it take? And I know that leads into what your ask is. I want to see that funding come through. I want to be confident in calling 911 because in the last week I could have called 4 times and I didn't because I didn't want to strain the resources. A drunk driver standing in front of Rotary watching people run the light, run the stop sign at Meeker and Second, just one after the other. And several times in the city I see things happen and I don't call because I don't want to strain the resources. I want to see you guys get the resources. And then my little question is, do you want us to call on that stuff?
Yes. The answer is yes. Call and be patient. I need the data. That's part of the discussion here. I need the data that shows a very clear picture of what the issue is. So please call and be very patient. You're going to make me break the last question rule. Go ahead.
In the past, there had been conversation about a new police station, and there was a vote that didn't pass. If you had the same amount of dollars, would you want to put those dollars into a new building or into staff and services, and why or why not?
Excellent question. The answer is, my request is both, but it's really easy for me. I know it's easy for my boss. I need officers and I need the support staff with them. The issue of us, we are way overcrowded. We've got a building we moved into in 1986-ish. There was a library that was supposed to be temporary.
I did my homework there when I was in elementary school.
Yeah. So it's a 52-year-old building, raised in 71.
Watch what you say about how old that is.
Yeah, I know. We're the same age. She's younger than me, just a little bit. For me, that's a problem that's on the horizon. The city is doing long-term planning for that. Give me the burden of overcrowded workspace because the priority is people to respond to your calls and people to do more than just respond to your calls. Okay? Mayor.
All right, I want to start by saying thank you for your comments. I can say this with 100% confidence. Your elected leadership in the city of Kent supports this police department 1,000%. That was true when it wasn't popular, and it's true now as people are starting to realize maybe it should be popular again. That hasn't changed. That commitment hasn't changed. And part of that is negotiating contracts with our officers to pay them what they should be paid. It is wellness, making sure they have access to those wellness things, because you're right, they see things that none of us have the capacity to process. Like, I see this much of it, and I cannot say thank you to these guys enough for what they do, because it's really tough work. That leads into sort of the next thing. We have done a lot of work in the past few years to get our house in order. We've availed ourselves of things like incentives for staffing, hiring. You've heard the numbers. We've hired up to what our budget is. We've also utilized technology. We have red light cameras. We have the school zone cameras. We have used all of the tools. Your city council has passed some pretty tough legislation. Again, when it was not popular, first city in the state to adopt our own drug laws. We've got camping ordinances, those kinds of things that other cities are now following suit. We've done the background work, all the things that we can to help make our community as safe as it can be. The piece that's missing is bodies. When you have all of your officers responding to a shooting or these kinds of really violent crimes, which we all want them to do, then they're not there. We don't have the people to respond to the other things. We've taken the state laws, the ones that we're supportive of, and the ones, Chief and I did a video back in 21, and we said, here's what passed, and this is what's gonna happen. I don't think there's anything in that video that hasn't happened. But we have also committed to you that we're gonna run our lap, we're gonna do what we can do, and we're gonna do everything in our power to help keep our community safe. It is absolutely our #1 priority. All of that being said, money is where the problem lies, right? Per capita, our property values are lower, our income levels are lower. Cities like Redmond, Kirkland, 3 times the general fund budget for the city of Kent, half the population. That's kind of a big deal. We went out to the voters in 2018, did not pass funding for additional officers. So we've been looking for other opportunities. That would have been a utility tax. This year, as we are heading into legislative session, which will start in mid-January, the city is going to have one legislative priority. Usually we have priorities in a bunch of different areas. We've got things we're gonna weigh in on policy, but our one ask of the legislature is the ability for our city council to take a really hard tax vote. And our ask is 0.3% sales tax. The legislature has to give the city the authority to be able to leverage that tax. Right now, cities cannot do that. Counties can, and King County has chosen not to do it. Most of the Eastern Washington counties have leveraged that sales tax, but King County, Pierce County, and Snohomish County haven't. We're asking that the city can do that. We're in conversation with our legislators right now. So far, fingers crossed, we're getting positive response. We know it's a big lift, but the city of Kent, we have never shied away from those big conversations, right? We have taken these things head on, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna ask our legislators to support us, give our council the authority to take that vote. What that would mean, that 0.3% sales tax would generate in that $12 million range that we talked about earlier. And it means everybody spending money in Kent pays a little bit to keep Kent safer. To the earlier question, I think, Dave, maybe that was your question about how do we make sure the funding stays. The way that we're presenting the legislation to the legislature, it is a public safety tax. It can't go anywhere else. We can't spend it in other places. It's for officers, prosecutors, that kind of thing. Again, that whole safety, that whole criminal justice package. So that's the commitment. We would be required to spend it there. I don't have any problem standing in front of you and saying we're not spending it anyplace else. We're going to be working this legislative session to convince the legislators from across the state that giving the cities the authority to do this is the right thing. It means that as a city, we get to take care of ourselves, right? That to me feels pretty important. So our city council heard this presentation at the last council meeting, help support us in this. If you have not subscribed to my newsletter, please do. We will be giving updates and who to contact, when to contact, if we can get the bill through the process as it's going along. They'll be hearing from me, they'll be hearing from our city council, they'll be hearing from the chief, but it's really, really important they hear from you. And so together, taken 2 tax votes in my career as an elected official, and they've both been really hard, but one of them was to take care of our streets a long time ago when we had no money there, and this one to me is the biggest thing that we can do to keep our community safe. So we just need the authority. Like, then the council will make that decision next year, but right now we're asking the legislature for that. If they do not give us that authority, our other option would be to go to the ballot sometime next year on a property tax. The struggle with that is we only get our property taxes once a year, it comes up, and then it takes a long time to get that funding. And as you've heard tonight from your police department, the time is now, right? We need to get officers on the street, and it takes a year from when we hire them to get through the process and get out there on their own. So we need to do something. We need to do something now. We have to continue to be able to have the resources to help keep you all safe. So there's the ask. I don't know, Chief, if you have anything else to add. This is a really big deal.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, because I think rightfully so, you all should be very skeptical. You should be very wary of more money going out of your pockets to taxes. We're with you. Okay, those taxes are difficult for a lot of people. But you need to look at how our structure is set up. In our state level funding, we have dedicated funding for most critical infrastructure, except one. There's dedicated funding tax source for fire, for schools, for streets, roads, and highways. There is not a dedicated funding source that's a statewide funding source of opportunity for law enforcement, public safety. There isn't. And I know that most people in this room would agree that the number one paramount duty of government is to ensure the safety of its community. That's the first thing, because if that isn't in place, the rest of it doesn't matter. Ask the people living in Gaza right now if they would agree with that. Okay? So why is it that the state level laws don't say this much money has to go to public safety? That's my question. Okay, so we'll stick around. My crew's going to stick around for questions on the side. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. We have, I think, 4 follow-up items that we will get back out to you on. But other than that, I can't thank you enough. Last message, the city's going to run its lap. I will commit to you that if we don't get a cent more than I currently have, we are going to exhaust every inch of resources that we have to do everything we can. If there's a sentiment that we've given up, I want to make it crystal clear, we have not. Okay? So nothing changes for us. We're going to go as hard as we can with what we have, but we want you to know we could use a lot more. Okay?
And I want to end with, you've heard from your police department tonight. You all should be really proud of the work that they're doing. They show up every single day to take care of us, right? Very, very grateful for the chief, all of our command staff, and our officers that are out there every single day. They are working to keep all of us that live here in this city safe. And we should be grateful, and I just want to say thanks, Chief.